at 2100 East Lake Avenue to have a one-on-one with the mayor. We will have a town hall meeting, and it will be moderated by Ernest Hooper from Safety Times. So we look forward to all of you all coming out. This is being put on by East Tampa Business and Civic Association. Thank you so much for allowing me to deliver this message.
All right then, that's Diane Hart. Going to be over there in the town hall meeting. We appreciate that. Mr. Buckhorn, let me go right back to the interview process. One of them, when you answered that question, you said restructuring government. Some concerns for the first 100 days is the chief of staff was a holdover from Mayor Pam Ory. CFO, a lot of people in the community don't know her. She was very brilliant, according to her resume and her bio. And the city attorney was a new person that brought in. Do you see any real restructuring of city governments like department heads? Any changes there? Because what we don't want to see, and I'm glad you said it, Mayor Buckhorn, is that you got your own style. Sandy had her style. Pam had her style. Greco had a style. We don't want to see a third Pam administration. We want to get some new people in there, some fresh blood with some new ideas, some young people in there that can do something with parking and rec, some new people over certain departments. We look to you to do that because all our career we followed you. We look for you to bring new ideas. You was the vehicle now to turn that generational page. Can we see any changes in department heads?
Well, I think you will, Jarvis, and bear in mind, unlike the president and the governor, my honeymoon was about an hour. I was elected on March the 22nd, and I was the mayor on April the 1st.
Well, you got to do a lot of hours. You did a lot of Viagra, boy.
and so the transition process, unlike President Obama, who was able to build his team over a 4-month period before he took office. I mean, I literally took office. I don't think I had slept since the 22nd until the April the 1st when I was sworn in.
About 9 days.
And so, the process is different, and the expectations are different. We've brought in 3 top people to replace some of those that had left. For the most part, Mayor Iorio left a good staff. And remember, these are professional folks. Ultimately, in a strong mayor form of government, and Tampa has one of the strongest mayor forms of government in the country. Those decisions and that attitude and that culture and that style are mine. And so as professional public employees, they either adapt to that and embrace it, or they go somewhere else. And so I'm going to take the time and be deliberative about this. I want to watch to see how the staff reacts to me, to see how they embrace my plan that was the reason I got elected, and the things that I talked about over the last year and a half. If they are willing to do what I expect of them and to play the game at the intensity that I play and to believe in the tenets of that plan that helped me get elected, then they will do fine with me. There will be some changes. I will find that some will not mesh with me, some will not agree with me, and there'll be opportunities to bring new blood in there. But it would be unfair to me and to them and to the citizens that we serve to just go in and whack heads not knowing whether they can live up to my expectations or not.
Great answer, Bob. I tell you, it was a great answer. I'm impressed. Rob.
Well, Mayor, you've said that you believe that the Rays are going to leave St. Petersburg, and you've hinted that, well, not so much hinted, you want the Rays to come here if they leave St. Petersburg.
You're going to get me in trouble again.
Where would be the ideal place in Tampa for a Rays baseball stadium?
Well, let's back up for a second. I have to answer this question everywhere I go because everyone is talking
I want to know about that.
About the Rays, and legitimately so. Here is sort of the real world dynamics of this situation. The Rays have a contract with the city of St. Petersburg.
Okay.
They have to fulfill that contract. Now, contracts can be broken. Clearly, the Rays have said, and this was me paraphrasing them, this wasn't inside information. Although I hope everybody did see my first pitch, because I brought the heat. I brought the heat. I wasn't going to throw.
You went back like Vita Blue.
I did. I just let it go. I wasn't going to throw the ball in the dirt and embarrass everybody. I was not going to throw it out in the stands, and no girly man throws for me.
No, that was a tough throw.
Although the smack of that ball in the catcher's mitt was a lot louder in my head than it was everywhere else. But I've got a lot of mileage out of that first pitch. It probably was at 40 miles an hour, but by the time I tell the story, it's about 80 miles. But they've got a contract, and nothing will happen until either they attempt to break that contract and compensate the city of St. Petersburg. And remember, there is still $90 million outstanding in bonds on that stadium that the city of St. Pete will have to be made whole on. That's not even including economic damages that they will allege in the course of the lawsuit. So until that is resolved, there's really not a lot to talk about. I have said that if they leave St. Pete, that I believe that the Rays are a regional asset and that we ought to do the best we can to try and keep them here. And I've also said that if all of that happens, then I thought the best location for a stadium in Tampa would be in downtown. Because I think the economic spin-off from a stadium in an urban core, as we have seen in, pick a city, Denver. I mean, look at what let's call it Lodo, the stadium did there, or Camden Yards in Baltimore. A baseball stadium in an urban core where you have 80 games a night, attracting 20,000 people a game, can do amazing things for a downtown. And getting back to Reverend Dixon's question early on, I mean, just imagine if we had that kind of critical mass,
I know.
that number of bodies in downtown, then our downtown really starts to work.
I agree with you.
Then it becomes an 18-hour day city.
Yes.
Bars spring up, restaurants spring up,
God.
the Riverwalk
Think
works.
about Atlanta.
The trolley, which is bleeding red ink,
Mm-hmm.
the parking garages that we built in Ybor City, which are bleeding red ink,
Mhm.
all of a sudden it all starts to work.
Cut away.
Now, if you ask me how a deal would get done, how we would pay for it, I couldn't tell you, Rob. It will take a very, very long and complicated and
Yes.
thoughtful financing package. There will not be a referendum on it because it would not pass, nor should it. But there would have to be some really creative financing to enable that to happen. But that is, that could be 5 years down the road.
And you want private financing?
Largely.
Largely,
I
what does
want
that
the,
mean?
Well, I want the ownership to pay a significant portion of it, and I've said that from the get-go. I want private
Which
equity.
is just.
Yeah, I want private equity money involved in it. Where the city could be helpful potentially is doing infrastructure, roads and streets and around the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You can set up what are called tax increment financing districts where the increase in property tax revenue stays within that area and could be used to help defease some of the bonds that may be floated. So there are ways to do it. You just have to have the best
Yes,
minds
indeed.
and limit the public exposure.
Yeah. It's going to be challenging and structure the deal.
Very,
But it's-
very challenging.
Yeah, but it can happen. All right, let's go now, Mr. Buckhorn. I want to ask you about the Economic Development Team, its members and its diversity. There are some questions about one African American on the Economic Development Team of 18. The community, the movers and shakers in the community don't really know the guy. Economic Development, you said that team is going to result in the 2 deputy mayors that you promised, which we still want the 2 deputy mayors. And we want the 2 deputy mayors to get to work, and we want to make that happen because we think that was a great idea, Bob. Me personally, I embrace the idea based on deputy mayors, how Cory Booker did in Newark. He's one of the guys I really admire. Tell us about that committee, what you want the committee to do, and why we need to wait until you hear from the committee recommendation before we get to deputy mayors.
Good, and it's a great question, Jarvis. And let me sort of tell you where we are with that committee.
Yes.
Because we're running down 2 parallel paths here. That committee, which is largely made up of engineers and architects, developers, real estate people, some small business folks, I call them my customers. Those are the folks that interact with the permitting system and the regulatory process, and who actually put their investment and their capital into projects to make them work. They're the ones who interact with the city on a daily basis. They know what the hurdles are to pull a permit. If we can't clean up our house internally, I can't be competitive externally. I can't go out and try to attract companies to come here, nor can we grow jobs here if it is so difficult to get through the permitting process. So internally, I've got to clean up my own house before I can go out and sort of preach the gospel of Tampa, Florida. So what that committee will do, we'll take a look at all of our land development codes, all of our regulatory processes, all of our construction codes, and advise me on what is the best way to streamline the process, what is the best way to make us more user-friendly, and most importantly, what is the best way to encourage development in the inner city and urban core? Because what we do historically have applied suburban development codes on urban infill projects. You cannot expect somebody who's developing in the inner city to have the same parking requirements, the same water retention requirements, the same landscape requirements that you do for a mall in Brandon. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does not work. And so if we're going to ever be able to incent people and excite people about developing in the inner city, we've got to change the way we do business. So that's what that committee is doing.
Okay.
Now, at the same time, we are running down another parallel path. We got a grant from HUD that was going to be used to study the high-speed rail.
Still in my thunder, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, talk
But I'm
about
on a roll. We're preaching now because this is where we're going. It's a $1.3 million.
Yeah.
It was going to be used to study Nebraska Avenue Rail Corridor. I asked HUD, since the governor blew that dream up for us, if I could take that money and develop a plan for the urban core, where we link Ybor City to Tampa Heights, to Riverside Heights, to Channelside, to downtown, to North Hyde Park, all the way over to Howard, Armenia, right to this location where we are now, literally, with the Armory as the anchor. To go in and allow me to look at how we create that environment where people want to come and develop in the urban core. And so we are running down that path as well. So 6 months from now, we're going to have a new regulatory and code process, and at the same time, we're going to start to develop the blueprint for what I think over the next 20 years will guide the development patterns in downtown Tampa. So, why not a deputy mayor yet?
Okay.
Because out of that process will come a different organizational chart. Right now, what we have is, if you come in to pull a permit in the city of Tampa, you have to go to 20 different agencies that are spread out all over the city, where nobody is in charge. There's no accountability, there's no direct reports. You've got water, wastewater, parks, solid waste, building services, fire marshal, all of whom report to different people.
I know.
And so there's no chain of command. And so what I'm going to do is consolidate all that. I'm going to physically locate them all in the same place. So when you come in with a set of plans, literally it will be a one-stop shop. And there will be one person in charge in the form of that deputy mayor.
Okay.
Now, the skill set that I need at the end of this process is different than what exists right now. And so if I were to hire someone right now for that job, it may not be the skill set that I need once we get done with the consolidation. So that's why you haven't seen me hire that person.
Right, but let me say this to you, and I'm talking to the listeners now. I hope you're listening to Mr. Mayor, because, and I'm not just stroking, he's making good sense about what he's saying. The question's being answered. He's not skating the question as to why there's not a deputy mayor. Now, to me, as an intelligent person, I want to think that I'm very intelligent. It makes very good sense to me. Why hire somebody? And Hakeem, you know about that permitting process.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a
You're dealing with a 9, and you got me dealing with it as one of your friends.
Yeah.
I'm almost on staff with you dealing with it. And I'm honest, I've never seen, I lived in Miami, I have never seen a permitting process like this. It's just it's like, who running it? Who's in charge? It's just a shameful God. Let's go to the phone line, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that answer. Welcome to Honest Opinion, keeping it real, making it happen.
Yes, good morning to the whole staff. I'm trying to make it real short. First of all, I'd like to applaud that monologue earlier. Leadership is said it best. But I want to get straight to my question. The mayor mentioned something earlier that kind of concerned me in reference to the increasement of law enforcement. Now, you know, throughout history, law enforcement and the relationship in the urban areas haven't been great with the racial profiling and police brutality and other negative things of that nature. What type of training programs will the new law enforcement will receive to strengthen that relationship between law enforcement and the urban areas, where it seems more of a protect and serve than a harassment? What kind of training programs should be implemented to strengthen that gap, to strengthen that bridge, to strengthen that relationship, so we have more of a deterrent than criminal action?
Very good question. I think you're talking about sensitivity training, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think his question was less geared towards the Republican National Convention. The 4,000 officers that I was talking about were not officers that will be Tampa police officers. Those will be officers that will be brought in to ensure the safety of the nominee and the safety of the guests that are here. That will be a one-time occurrence. And those folks, there will be training. There will be less interaction with the community as opposed to the area around the convention. The Secret Service controls the security of the convention. They decide how big that area is, and sort of they throw a blanket over the city, if you will, for obvious reasons. I mean, political conventions post 9/11 are targets, and let's not make a mistake in believing that they're not. They are targets for extremists. They are targets for all kinds of folks who would want to do harm or who would want to send a message. That is